Thomas Halleck here, University of South Florida, St. Petersburg. Today's 3-minute lesson is on the flying African. More broadly, I'd like to use it to talk about some of the principles of reading oral literatures. In 1803, a group of enslaved Igbos, people from present-day Nigeria, jumped ship at St. Simon's Island, presumably to drown rather than facing a life of slavery. Many people say they die, although there's also a substantial literature that talks about how the people walked back to Africa, or how they flew back to Africa. And that story, the flying African, is really at the center of the black diaspora. You hear it from Brazil all the way up to Arkansas, and yet people often link it to Igbo landing. How do we unpack the story of Igbo landing, and how do we read oral literatures in general? I have two examples that I'd like to share with you, and there's hundreds that we could draw from. The first is from the version told by the guy in the picture here, Floyd White, who was a native of St. Simon's Island, and his words were recorded by folklorists, white folklorists, in Drums and Shadows, an anthology of oral narratives from the Great Depression. Listen to the change in tone. At one hand, you hear the voice of the white editors. Pleasant memories associated with the social activities of the past caused Floyd to ponder abstractly for a time. That's the editor's voice. Now, they try and render White's words in their version of a black dialect. I can't really read it, but let me try it. Heard about the Igbos landing? That's the place where they bring the Igbos over in a slave ship, and when they get there, they ain't like it. And they all start singing, and they march right back down to the river, back to Africa. But they ain't able to get there. It gets drowned. Now, in this case, you always have to ask yourself, who is the gatekeeper? Who is the editor? When you read oral literatures, of course, you're always a little bit on the outside. You always have to ask, who is the editor bringing you into this circle of storytelling? That leads to a second version, The People Could Fly, by the great children's book author, Virginia Hamilton. And notice the difference here in tone in Hamilton's version. Here's the beginning. They say the people could fly. Say that long ago in Africa, some of the people knew magic, and they would walk up on the air like climbing on a gate. And they flew like blackbirds over the fields, black shiny wings flapping against the blue up there. Then many of the people were captured for slavery. The ones that could fly shed their wings. They couldn't take their wings across the water on the slave ships. Too crowded, don't you know? I can almost hear the mother pausing before too crowded, don't you know, to address the child's question, why couldn't the people take their ships? There's an intimacy to it. There's a fracturing of grammar that feels very colloquial. And in this story, there is an attempt, I think, to replicate, or there's an attempt to provide the story that a mother would share with her daughter. Very important to think about where is the story coming from? Who published it? What's the editor? And how does the story change accordingly? That's all I have to say for now, but hope to talk to you soon later. Bye-bye.